Good morning. Thank you, Katrina. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's 9:15 in the morning. I want to thank everybody for attending this opening and first session of today. And I can already feel a great buzz of enthusiasm in the room. And I want to thank you for that. I think the fact that we have almost 200 people present for the early morning session is again indicative of the importance that you attach to what is this important occasion, the second Global Irish Civic Forum. Looking around the room, I'm delighted to see so many familiar faces, not only those who attended the first forum in 2015, but many of whom I have met at various locations in various cities throughout the world, and many of you, of course, here in Dublin. I've had the opportunity of engaging with you on a number of important issues over the past while. And I just want to say that you're all very welcome together under the one roof here in Dublin Castle. And a particular welcome to those of you who have travelled a considerable distance to be with us. We value your input. We value your presence. We value your influence and your expertise and indeed your experience on matters pertaining to our country. Our objects are the same. We wish to ensure that we can continue to do our best for our people abroad and our people here at home. I'm pleased there are over 150 organisations with us over these few days. Areas represented that have long been associated with Irish immigration. The United States of America, Australia, our nearest neighbours in UK, Canada, Denise and others from New Zealand. And I know some of you are also representing your communities in the Middle East. And of course, many of the organisations based at home here in Ireland, doing super work at managing to ensure close and positive links from home to abroad. The theme of the forum are the 3 C's: communities, connections and conversations. It's an opportunity to connect with each other, an opportunity to share the benefit of your collective experience, and an opportunity, having engaged, to learn from each other. And our aim here over the next couple of days is to ensure a dynamic, interactive discussion and for the conversation to be continued into the future in the various cities from which you've come right across the globe. So wherever you've travelled from, and whatever organisation or community you represent, I want to encourage you over the course of the next few hours to share your opinions and to share these opinions, views and observations in a frank and direct manner that we Irish usually engage in. The views of the Irish abroad are every bit as diverse as the views of Irish people at home. I don't expect all of you to agree on everything. I don't expect all of you to agree with each other. And I probably expect very few of you to agree with the government. But however, can I say that I very much recognise that the diaspora is not a homogenous group, that there are people with differing views. And for many, the emigrant experience has been a wholly positive one. Indeed, for others, it has been more difficult and challenging. And I want to particularly acknowledge the work that many of you have been doing for many years in the various emigrant and welfare centres throughout the world. And can I say that the importance of the support that you continue to give to the vulnerable Irish is central to our thinking and central to the role of our emigrant support programme. Indeed, 70% of our emigrant support programme goes to our welfare services. This year, the budget of the programme is €11.6 million. Since it was established in 2004, it has assisted 535 organisations in 36 countries with more than €148 million in terms of grant aid. And can I say on behalf of the government, and indeed I want to acknowledge the work and the leadership in this regard of my colleague Minister of State Joe McHugh, and can I say that both Joe McHugh and I are committed to ensuring that the welfare for those in need remains at the heart of our programme for government work, while also supporting many other aspects of Irish culture across various pursuits that continue to bind us in terms of sport, in terms of music, in terms of art, and indeed the matter of our own Irish language. The government is also committed to creating the conditions which would allow those who have left Ireland to return, should they wish to do so. And you will also be familiar with the challenges experienced by those in that regard. One of the most important elements of government is to ensure not only job maintenance but job creation. Our action plan for jobs is working. There are now over 2 million people at work here in Ireland, the highest number since 2008. Once people decide to embark on the move home, we are working to ensure that that transition can be as smooth on people as possible. And in this regard, we very much value your experience and your expertise and your advice and guidance in this regard. And again, I want to acknowledge the leadership that Minister of State McHugh is taking on the matter of the Interdepartmental Committee on the Irish Abroad, addressing as it does the practical issues for Irish citizens who are abroad, thinking in terms of returning back home. So it goes without saying, but I think it's important that we record it at the outset of our proceedings today, that Ireland faces a number of strategic challenges in our international relationships. These have the potential to greatly affect us from an economic point of view, from a political point of view, indeed from a social point of view. And foremost amongst them is the decision of our nearest neighbour, the United Kingdom, to leave the European Union. Of course, the outcome of that referendum last June was not what we wanted. We didn't want to lose our friend and neighbour from the European family, but they are going all the same. And of course, as a Democrat, I fully accept the wishes of the majority of those who voted in the referendum last June. The fact of the matter is now we need to work on matters as they are, and we need to ensure that Ireland's priorities are very much to the fore in the context of the forthcoming negotiations, which I expect will commence following the British general election in June. Ireland remains the most exposed economically and politically of any country other than the UK itself to what will be a negative experience. Ireland's place remains firmly at the heart of Europe. In fact, I'm very much heartened by recent opinion polls that show that over 85% of the Irish people wish to continue to engage actively and constructively in the European project, the European movement, and indeed our strong and committed membership of the European family of 550 million people. So, notwithstanding the decision of our neighbours in the UK to leave the European Union, we are strongly committed to the future of Europe, our membership of the Union and our continued membership of the Eurozone. Of course, the European Union is not a perfect organisation. There is none in any of our global endeavours. But notwithstanding the imperfections of the European Union, I think it's absolutely essential that we acknowledge that membership of that union has been central to our success as an economy and indeed the foundation of much of the social progress made in Ireland since we joined the European Economic Community in 1973. I was at school at the time, preparing for the junior certificate. I remember the buzz of excitement at the time. And then during the mid-70s, late 70s as a student, and then working as a young lawyer in Portlaoise in the early 80s, I look at a huge body of legislation that was passed in that time in terms of labour law, in terms of employees' rights, workers' rights, social welfare legislation, family law legislation, women's rights legislation, all of which had a huge bearing on the progress across Irish society, and much of which was due to our membership of the EEC and European Union. In particular, our economic model that we now have as a small open economy. It's fundamentally based on our membership of the single market, our place within the world's biggest trading bloc of 550 million people. Whatever the options may be for the United Kingdom, it's clear that for Ireland to leave the European Union would be a catastrophe. But while not downplaying the massive economic challenges facing Ireland as a result of Brexit, we have lessened our dependence on the UK market since we joined the European Union in the 70s. Today, our total trade with the euro area is about 2.5 times that we enjoy with the UK. Our focus is on developing the single market further, and indeed on maximising the benefits of the EU's trade agreements with other countries and regions. More broadly, we value being part of a union with other like-minded democracies, which share our values, which share our interests in what is a challenging, indeed turbulent world out there. The EU's contribution to the longest period of peace and solidarity in European history is one of its central achievements. And of course, the Union also plays a vital role in fostering peace here on our own island of Ireland. Maintaining this peace and minimising the potential damage from Brexit is one of our central priorities in the negotiation process to come. So whatever happens in the Brexit negotiations, nothing should undermine peace and stability in Northern Ireland. It's critical, therefore, that there's no return to a hard border. And as the most tangible symbol of the peace process, the open border is essential to continuing normalisation of relationships right across the island of Ireland. Also important will be the recognition by the European Union of arrangements between the UK and Ireland, such as the common travel area, which we have enjoyed since the foundation of our state in the early 1920s. It predates EU membership. It continues to play a crucial role in facilitating interaction between people across these islands. Indeed, similarly, we are conscious of the provision within the Good Friday Agreement for all the people of Northern Ireland to identify themselves as British or Irish or both. And this, of course, has the result of a fact that almost everybody born in Northern Ireland can choose to be an Irish citizen and can choose, therefore, to be a citizen of the European Union. So we're likely to have a situation at some stage in the future where in a part of the Union that's now leaving the Union will be populated by people, every one of whom is entitled to be a citizen of that Union. And there are many legal and complex issues that need to be worked out in the context of what will be a very, very challenging process of negotiation. So we have the responsibility. Indeed, we have an obligation during the talks to ensure that the rights currently enjoyed by Irish citizens in Northern Ireland as EU citizens are not in any way diminished or underscored or underplayed after the UK leaves the European Union. Can I again confirm that the government is actively engaged with our EU partners on all of these issues? We are at the beginning of what will be a lengthy and difficult process. But I take comfort in the fact that there's a good understanding of our concerns and Ireland's interests among our EU partners. We have continued to ensure, we have consistently ensured through the Taoiseach and Minister McHugh and indeed all of our government colleagues that there is a very good understanding of our concerns across the European Union and indeed a clear understanding of our concerns with our UK government colleagues across the water also. And these, of course, have been reflected in the negotiated guidelines that have been recently adopted and published last week. Of course, the challenges that are being faced by Ireland on the international stage are not confined to challenges within the European Union or indeed the continent of Europe. We're also seeing the evolution of our relationship with the United States. Ireland's bonds with the US are deep, they're complex, they're multi-layered, they're based on people, indeed they're based on centuries of migration and centuries of shared family ties. There is barely a family in the country without a link to the US somewhere in its present or indeed its past. There are also strong political and economic strands to the relationship. Our political ties have remained very close over decades, regardless of changes of government in the global context. The government remains committed to ensuring that this nexus of affinity, this nexus of solidarity and the matter of cooperation still continues to be as positive and constructive as is. I want to say that the United States played a really important role in bringing peace to Ireland. American investment has played a major part in our economic transformation. Ireland continues to be an important home for US companies seeking a base in the European Union, and indeed Irish investment in the US continues to grow, with as many as 100,000 people employed by Irish companies across 50 states of the United States of America. So nevertheless, we need to acknowledge, and I know you will be in the course of the day, acknowledging the fact that nothing remains the same. and we are challenged to respond, and we continue to be challenged to adapt to changes in US policy, whether political or economic, or in the area of immigration. I want to acknowledge the presence here since our last forum of Senator Billy Lawless, who is making a very valued contribution to us in the Oireachtas, with particular and specific responsibility on the matter of immigration to the States. Can I say, Billy, we very much value your contribution, your experience, your expertise. You will see in the course of your discussions that we are required as a government and as a people to be nimble, to be cohesive, but to be well organised on the matter of immigration in our dealings with the United States. It requires that we continue to engage at the highest level and that we continue to have a strong commitment to our values. But we need also to ensure that our relationships, in terms of the excellent engagement we have, continues to ensure that we have a first-class business environment and in making the case for Irish immigrants. I want to acknowledge the presence here of some Oireachtas colleagues, Senator McLaughlin and others, all of whom endeavour to work together to ensure that when we visit America, no matter what party we represent, so whether we're from government or opposition or indeed members of civic society or business leaders, that we at every opportunity make the case for the positive relations between Ireland and the United States. Members of the government, our diplomats, or the representatives continue to work hard to keep abreast of developments in Washington and the implications of these changes for Ireland and for our people. In this, the situation of the undocumented has been to the forefront of our thinking, and I want to acknowledge the leadership role of Ann Anderson and our embassy in Washington, D.C., and our consulates across the US, and I know that they continue to be in ongoing contact with many of you as matters proceed. And I wish to assure you that the government's commitment to proactively advocating on behalf of the undocumented and supporting those of you who work with them. So I want to acknowledge the valuable contribution of our community abroad. I want to thank you for the case that you make. That is acknowledged, it's respected by government. Indeed, it's acknowledged and respected in the context of my bilateral relations with many of the foreign ministers of the countries represented here. They acknowledge the work that you do, and they acknowledge the importance of the Irish communities in their areas and districts and countries. So I also want to acknowledge the contribution of our Oireachtas colleagues. I see Senator Daly here. I see Senator O'Cluckerdick here. And I want to acknowledge their role in ensuring that Irish interests abroad are represented at the highest level and continuously. So I want to say that at this forum is a recognition of the valuable contribution that you make. And I think this forum, in effect, is a celebration of the contribution that your organisation and the global Irish community continues to make in terms of our relationship. I know many of you and many of your colleagues and friends and workers who are not here continue to work quietly, but nevertheless diligently on behalf of Ireland, supporting the vulnerable, promoting Ireland and its people, promoting Ireland as a place not only to do business, but promoting Ireland as a place to visit in terms of tourism. And many of you have made a lasting contribution to peace and stability on our island. There's no doubt that the international landscape is both changing and challenging. But in the face of this challenge, our commitment to the global Irish community remains undiminished. In fact, precisely because of the flux and turbulence that we're experiencing around the world, it's all the more necessary that the Irish diaspora and the Irish homeland should remain deeply and positively engaged with each other. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to personally thank you and to convey the personal thanks of the Taoiseach and the Kenny, who's currently in Canada, to thank you for all your support and to thank you for all your efforts on behalf of the Irish throughout the world, for the constancy of your commitment to the land of your birth, to the land of your heritage, and for taking the time and indeed incurring the expense in joining us here today. And I hope that your next few days will be a learning, a rewarding, and an enjoyable experience. And I wish you well in your endeavours. And thank you.